Hello everyone, it's Anthony. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is. We're here today with the last lesson of the C1 unit, the C1 level, advanced, number 49. We're at the last one, and as always, we'll start with work with the pronunciation. We will read from column A, the phonetics script, slowly, exaggerated. I will give you time to repeat, then we will go to the English. You listen, read, and then repeat. So let's just begin. It's vital that we feel good about ourselves. It's vital that we feel good about ourselves. It was one of those times. It was one of those times when everything seemed to go wrong. When everything seemed to go wrong. There are only 2 or 3 people here. There are only 2 or 3 people here whose names I know. Whose names I know. You'll have a great party. You'll have a great party if you plan it carefully. If you plan it carefully. It sounds too good to be true. It sounds too good to be true. Which book did you buy in the end? Which book did you buy in the end? The one you recommended. The one you recommended. There's someone whom I want you to meet. There's someone whom I want you to meet. Everything he said was pure nonsense. Everything he said was pure nonsense. Anybody who wants to come is welcome. Anybody who wants to come is welcome. Paula was the only one. Paula was the only one I knew at the party. I knew at the party. Scholarships are available. Scholarships are available for those who need financial help. For those who need financial help. It is I who am responsible. It is I who am responsible. He who laughs last laughs best. He who laughs last laughs best. The professor who teaches chemistry. The professor who teaches chemistry is an excellent lecturer. Is an excellent lecturer. Hawaii, which consists of 8 islands, is a good vacation spot. Eight Islands is a good vacation spot. Mrs. Smith, who is a retired teacher, Mrs. Smith, who is a retired teacher, does volunteer work. Does volunteer work. The man who I met teaches economics. The man who I met teaches economics. Mr. Lee, whom I met yesterday, Mr. Lee, whom I met yesterday, teaches economics. Teaches economics. Okay, we have finished the first part of the groups. We will continue the same way. I just wanted to remind you that you can hit the button below, subscribe, ring the bell to catch any notifications of future broadcasts that we will be doing, different than this kind of work. In any case, you'll be connected, so do that. Let's go to the second part. We took some children on a picnic. We took some children on a picnic. The children who wanted to play soccer The children who wanted to play soccer ran to an open field. Ran to an open field. As soon as we arrived at the park, as soon as we arrived at the park, the children who wanted to play soccer The children who wanted to play soccer ran to an open field. Ran to an open field as soon as we arrived at the park. As soon as we arrived at the park. The others played a different game. The others played a different game. In my class, there are 20 students. In my class, there are 20 students. Most of them are from the Far East. Most of them are from the Far East. In my class, there are 20 students. In my class, there are 20 students. Most of whom are from Asia. Most of whom are from Asia. He gave several reasons. He gave several reasons. Only a few of them were valid. Only a few of them were valid. He gave several reasons. He gave several reasons. Only a few of which were valid. Only a few of which were valid. The teachers discussed gym. The teachers discussed gym. One of his problems was poor study habits. They discussed gym. One of whose problems was lack of sleep. One of whose problems was lack of sleep. Jack of all trades, master of none. Jack of all trades, master of none. One man's loss is another man's gain. One man's loss is another man's gain. Is it true they're going to freeze? Is it true they're going to freeze? The price of petrol. The price of petrol. I hope so. I hope so. But I don't think so. But I don't think so. let's move on. Let's move on to our next point for discussion. To our next point for discussion. Our deadline is the day after tomorrow, right? Is the day after tomorrow, right? I'm afraid so. I'm afraid so. I wish you'd stop being so negative. I wish you'd stop being so negative. Okay, that's the end of the pronunciation part. Very good. Remember that you can copy and paste the list below. There is the words, so you can translate. You can put those into your translator and check them. Let's go now to the grammar part, and we'll look at the last unit, 49. There's not really too much here. Using adjective clauses to modify pronouns. Adjective clauses can modify indefinite pronouns like someone, everybody, anyone. Object pronouns whom, who, that, which are usually omitted in the adjective clause, or the relative clause, you can call it. There's someone whom I want you to meet. Okay, whom is completely optional. There's someone I want you to meet. In B, everything he said was pure nonsense. Everything that he said. C, anybody who wants to come is welcome. Here we have who. This is necessary. Someone, whom, everything, he, anybody, who. Okay, so adjective clauses can modify the ones and those. One, though. Paula was the only one I knew at the party. Paula was the only one. So this modifies this part of the sentence. She was the only one that I knew. Scholarships are available for those who need financial assistance. Those people who need financial assistance. I'm giving you more information about those. That's why it's an adjective clause. Adjective clauses are almost never used to modify personal pronouns. Native English speakers would not write the sentence in F. Okay, let's see this. I, who am a student at this school, come from a country in Asia. Yeah, this doesn't sound very natural. Instead, G is possible. It is I who am responsible. That's very formal. Another possibility, he who laughs last laughs best. This is a well-known saying. He is used as an indefinite pronoun meaning anyone. He. So I don't think many people do this now today. But you could say he who does that. Sorry, have a cold. Punctuating adjective clauses. Okay, general guidelines for the punctuation. This is not about speaking, but just some ideas. Do not use commas if the adjective clause is necessary. to identify the noun it modifies. Use commas if the adjective clause simply gives additional information and is not necessary to identify the noun it modifies. Let's look at an example. The professor who teaches Chemistry 101 is an excellent lecturer. You'll see that there are no commas. The adjective clause is necessary to identify which professor is meant. Okay, I'm sorry for you who are, those who are following the podcast. You can't see this sentence, but there are no commas. The professor who teaches Chemistry 101 is an excellent lecturer. Okay, let's look at another example with commas. Professor Wilson, comma, who teaches Chemistry 101, comma, is an excellent lecturer. Here the adjective clause is not necessary to identify Professor Wilson. We already know who he is. He has a name. The adjective clause simply gives additional information. Non-necessary, non-essential. There's a lot of different words you can use to describe this type of adjective clause or relative clause. The point is, no, sorry, no comma is, no comma is necessary if the adjective clause is necessary. So you use commas if an adjective clause modifies a proper noun. A proper noun begins with a capital letter. So, Professor Wilson is a proper noun. Professor Wilson. All right, a comma reflects a pause in speech. C. Hawaii, which consists of 8 principal islands, is a favorite vacation spot. Hawaii, comma, which consists of 8 principal islands, comma, is a favorite vacation spot. Okay, here again we also have Hawaii, which is a proper name, a proper noun. So we need the commas here. Mrs. Smith, Mrs. Smith. Yeah, I'll just get rid of that. Mrs. Smith, who is a retired teacher, does volunteer work at the hospital. Mrs. Smith, comma, who is a retired teacher, comma, does volunteer work at a hospital. Okay, also here, Mrs. Smith, proper noun. We have modifying adjective clause that we set off with punctuation. E, the man who I met teaches chemistry. The man whom I met teaches chemistry. The man that I met teaches chemistry. Here there are no commas. Any possible pronoun may be used in the adjective clause between who, whom, and that if it's a person. The object pronouns may be omitted because you could also say the man I met teaches chemistry. You don't even need a pronoun here. In F, Mr. Lee, I'll correct that. Whom I met yesterday teaches chemistry. Mr. Lee, comma, whom I met yesterday teaches chemistry. Okay, Mr. Lee is a proper noun. The comma is necessary. The pronoun may not be used. Who, whom, which, whose, where, and when may all be used, but they cannot be omitted. Right, Mr. Smith, whom I met. You can't omit whom in this case. Okay, let's compare the meaning. The use of comma means that All of the children wanted to play. Oh, sorry. I have to give you the sentence first. So down here. We took some children on a picnic. The children, comma, who wanted to play soccer, comma, ran to an open field as soon as we arrived at the park. Okay, the use of commas means that all of the children wanted to play soccer, and all of the children ran to an open field. The adjective clause is used only to give additional information about the children. So let me just read this without the adjective clause. The children ran to an open field as soon as we arrived at the park. You see, the children, all of the children. The extra information, who wanted to play soccer, I'm not identifying the children here. I'm only telling you extra information. That's why they went to the field. They wanted to play soccer. But it was not necessary to say that. Let's look at H. We took some children on a picnic. The children who wanted to play soccer ran to an open field as soon as we arrived at the park. In this case, there are no commas. This means that only some of the children wanted to play soccer. The adjective clause is used to identify which children ran to the open field. So, the children who wanted to play. There were also children who didn't want to play. Only the children who wanted to play ran to the open field. I hope you understand how that works. Using expressions of quantity in adjective clauses. Okay, an adjective clause may contain an expression of quantity with of, some of, many of, most of, none of, two of, half of, both of, neither or neither of, each of, all of, several of, a few of, a little of, a number of, etc., etc. The expression of quantity precedes the pronoun. Only whom, which, and whose are used in this pattern. Okay, you can only use these three pronouns. Adjective clauses beginning with an expression of quantity are more common in writing than in speaking. Commas are used. So, in my class there are 20 students, comma, most of whom are from Asia. All right, here we need a comma, most of whom, okay? Most of them are from the Far East. All right, if I just say most of them, I don't need a comma, I don't need any kind of expression here. There's no pronoun here, okay? B, he gave several reasons, comma, only a few of which were valid. Okay, here I've got a comma. This is telling you that he gave several reasons, only a few of them were valid. Sorry, just had to close the window. A few of which were valid. Okay, he gave several reasons, only a few of them were valid. In C, the teachers discussed Jim, one of whose problems was poor study habits. Discussed Jim, comma, one of whose problems was poor study habits. The teachers discussed Jim, full stop, one of his problems, right? So we're using whose to eliminate this his. Using noun of which, an adjective clause may include a noun of which, example, the top of which. This pattern carries the meaning of whose. We have an antique table whose top has jade inlay. Yeah, whose in this case there's possession about the top. This pattern is used in an adjective clause that modifies a thing and occurs primarily in formal written English. Comma is used. We have an antique table, comma, the top of which has jade inlay. We have an antique table, full stop, the top of it has jade inlay. So that's how we put those two sentences together, the top of which. Okay, using which to modify a whole sentence. pronouns that and this can refer to the idea of a whole sentence which comes before. In B, the word that refers to the whole sentence, Tom was late. Okay. A, Tom was late. This should be a full stop. Tom was late, full stop. That surprised me. Okay, so that is referring to the fact that Tom was late. Similarly, an adjective clause with which may modify the idea of a whole sentence. In C, the word which refers to the whole sentence, Tom was late. Tom was late, which surprised me. In this case, we have a comma. Tom was late, comma, which surprised me, which refers to Tom was late. The elevator is out of order, full stop. This is too bad. Okay, this refers to the fact that the elevator is out of order. But I can also say, like in F, the elevator is out of order, comma, which is too bad, which refers to the entire part of the first part of the sentence. Using which to modify a whole sentence is informal, occurs most frequently in spoken English. Informal and spoken. The structure is generally not appropriate for formal writing. Whenever it is written, however, it is preceded by a comma to reflect a pause in speech. The elevator is out of order, which is too bad. Okay. So you can do those exercises if you have access to that site. And thank you. We're at the end of the lesson. I hope you enjoyed it, and good luck in learning. See you next time. Bye-bye.